So with the finale of Gen V being just around the corner, the penultimate episode recently aired, and it provided a lot of insight into the virus that was created and was at the center point of this whole first season. With Newman taking away the only form of the virus off of Dr. Cardosa, it looks like it's been left in hands where damage can be done if the decision is made. So in this video, I thought I'd explain the virus, its effects, the purpose of it, and what could happen now that it's outside of the woods. So let's get into it. Here is the virus in Gen V explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The effects of the virus. Within the most recent episode, we saw the main effects of the virus, and it looked like something which was pretty horrific, far worse than what we saw in the earlier episodes of the show. However, we definitely knew that something else was on the horizon, due to the short scenes that were present inside the trailer before the season even aired. The main effect of the virus is that it kills the subject, but it does it in a way that looks extremely painful and like there's a ton of suffering that's put upon the individual in their final moments. The last we saw of the virus, it wasn't airborne, and it was passed through fluids of others. But obviously, Cardosa was tasked with working on making it airborne, which would mean that it would be extremely contagious and spread amongst the soup population at a much more rapid pace if that was the case. The virus specifically latches onto traces of Compound V inside of the individual's blood, and the soups would then go on to have their body covered in extremely sore-looking warts which took over their whole body, head to toe. They'd struggle to move and look in a tremendous amount of pain when doing so. It looks like the warts would also cause lots of scratching due to the blood that was present on the subject's shirt. They would be caught bleeding from the mouth, which would be supported with a large amount of coughing. It also seemed as though the best situation for them was to be curled up and sat in the dark, as it seemed as though that was when they were in the least amount of pain. It's sad to think about it really, because in that situation, it's like they're almost just laying there waiting to die. This would continue on until the individual would eventually succumb to the virus and it would claim their life completely, a horrific, torturous way for the individual to go. The purpose of the virus. So the purpose of the virus being created actually changed over the course of the period that it was being worked on. Cardosa was under the impression that he was creating the virus so that there could be some kind of population control when it came to the soups, and that it would make them sick and cause them to lose the main strength and ability that came with their power, something which we saw halfway through the season, rendering them on the cusp of being powerless. No mass devastation was ever intended at that point. However, as time went on, we saw that Shetty's mind, which was riddled with revenge due to her knowing that Homelander was responsible for the death of her husband and child who were on board the plane that came crashing down in Season 1. It essentially started her hatred for the soup population, which meant that she instead wanted to make something which was far more damaging to the soups. She went from wanting to create a virus that made them powerless, to one which was airborne, extremely contagious, and would kill the soups in the most horrific way possible, slowly dying whilst covered in warts, barely able to move, and in a tremendous amount of pain. So the purpose changed completely. The goal changed to essentially wipe out an entire population as a way of seeking revenge, and only having humans that didn't have Compound V in their blood on the planet. The purpose turned extremely dark. The future of the virus. With the only existing samples of the virus being in Victoria Newman's hands at the end of episode 7, it quite literally leaves a countless amount of opportunities for it to return, and it still keeps the threat of the destruction of the soup population lingering in the background, whilst also providing something that's ticking over like a ticking time bomb which could explode and come back at any moment. I personally feel as though the soup virus is going to be something that makes up a large part of the plot on Season 4 of The Boys, when the show does eventually return. I imagine we'll probably get a new season of The Boys before we get another season of Gen V, and if you think about it, Mallory knows about the virus. There was also a person that she was on the phone to, which could be Billy Butcher or somebody else from The Boys, or even somebody from the CIA listening to it. Newman knows about it, and Vought will most likely end up knowing about it too when news gets out. This covers all arms and corners of The Boys TV show, which means that there's no way that this isn't going to get mentioned in the future. With it being in Newman's hands, it very much puts her in a catch-22 situation. She wants to take down Homelander, and now she quite literally holds the power to be able to. However, if she does take him down by utilizing the virus, then it would also mean that she could be compromised too. We saw just how contagious and infectious the virus was, and how out of control and widespread it could become if it were to get out into the soups. So it would mean sacrificing not only herself in order for Homelander to be killed, but it could also mean that many other Supes would face a torturous death at the hands of the virus, and also the hands of Newman. Or what we could see happen is that we could see Newman work with some other scientists, just like Cardosa, in order to work on some kind of cure for the virus for her own personal gain. We know that Newman keeps her Supe identity under wraps, and if she were to become infected, then her cover would be blown and everybody would know her true identity. So sticking to the theme of her being subtle about who she truly is, we could see her working on a cure, or at least some kind of temporary immunity in order to keep her true identity sealed whilst releasing the disease onto Homelander or other Supes that she wishes to destroy. She could try to weaponize it in a way that doesn't cause a mass amount of damage. However, I don't know how possible that will be just due to the destructive nature of it. With Mallory being aware of the virus and there being that person that was on the receiving end of the phone call who overheard everything that Shetty said, with Shetty now being dead and Dr. Cardosa being killed too, it could mean that she could be on the hunt for this virus that would have gone missing by the time that the woods will have properly been exposed, and authorities would have gone in there. Plus, we're also going to be seeing Vought most likely going after it once the true motives of Shetty have been revealed to the public, so there's going to be a lot of people after it. If the virus does actually end up getting released into the Supe population, it could be something that provides a real moral dilemma for the boys, as obviously there's a mixed bag of individuals in there, such as regular humans and also Supes with the likes of Starlight and Kimiko. Knowing how ruthless Billy Butcher is, I can see him just wanting to use it and weaponize it if they manage to get their hands on it, but in turn that could cause a massive divide due to the difference in beliefs that they all share. Something which would provide a really interesting arm to the story. We also know that the final thing that we saw in Season 3 of The Boys was centered around the boys saying that they wanted to get Newman and take her down, so the virus could also be tied into it in that way too. The creation of this Supe virus is something which has quite literally created another way for the most powerful Supe of them all, Homelander, to be killed, whilst also making a way for Supes to be easily destroyed at the hands of regular humans. I definitely feel like we're going to see it being utilized in some way when the new season of The Boys does get released, and personally, I can't wait to see how it's going to be used and the danger levels get increased in general. So, there you have it, the virus in Gen V explained. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. I've also been covering the entirety of Season 1 of Gen V. In fact, there's a playlist for it, so feel free to visit that if you want more Gen V content. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What do you think is going to happen with the virus? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.